If you've been watching my videos, you know that my daughter, who has severe autism, has a genetic disorder called P10-Cowden syndrome, which I always thought was the main reason why she had autism. After thoroughly researching the MTHFR mutation, I realized that when she originally got her genetic testing done, the MTHFR mutation was not tested for. Come to find out from her pediatrician, the MTHFR mutation is not something that genetic specialists will typically test for when you go to get genetic testing, which is wild. In the meantime, I learned a certain copy of the MTHFR mutation runs in my family. It's not the one that is the most severe, but it's the one, I think, right underneath it. A1298C is the copy. Now, that's the one I know of. After researching it very thoroughly, many people in my family have a lot of the symptoms and things that you are predisposed to if you have this specific copy, as well as me. So much is making sense. I haven't gotten tested yet. I'm telling you I have it. I'm feeling so validated the more and more I research. Now, because I knew of a few family members that have this copy, and by the way, you can get different copies of the MTHFR mutation from your parents. So you could have two parents that have two totally different copies, and you could get each copy, therefore making your symptoms more severe. So I don't know. That could be a thing. I'm going to be testing for this. There's some things that I'm going about first. Because I know of this copy specifically that runs in my family and the way that it's passed down, my chances of having it are high. Therefore, Ella's chances of having it are high. We started leucovorin in June, and we immediately within 2 weeks saw a decrease in her stimming behaviors and her hyperactivity to the point where we were able to decrease her long-acting stimulant medication in half of the dose that she was taking. And she has been having more frequency of words on a weekly basis. Cut to 4.5 months later, and I start researching NAC. So when you have the MTHFR mutation, a lot of the time you have low levels of glutathione. NAC helps your body produce glutathione naturally. If you don't have healthy levels of glutathione, then toxins just keep building up and building up in your body, adding to inflammation. If you have the MTHFR mutation, chances are you have low glutathione, and all the environmental triggers that you add to your body cause inflammation and make it worse and worse and worse. Then you can get things like autoimmune disorders. And that's when the symptoms of the mutation start taking effect. I started Ella on NAC. She then started speaking words we haven't heard from her in years on a weekly basis. Many people that work with her are hearing these words. We're hearing the words. We're hearing more words in one sitting than we've ever heard, ever. Therefore, I believe she obviously is deficient in folinic acid and glutathione. Today, I decided to contact the hospital that we originally got the testing done from. Of course, that email gave where it didn't deliver. So I don't think I can contact that person anymore. It's been years. So I know that the next option is to go to the hospital that they referred us to after we found out about Ella's genetic condition, which is a prestigious hospital for children where I live. I know they have all of her records on file. I got a hold of the genetic counseling specialist department. I said, I noticed when Ella got her genetic testing done originally, there was never a test done for MTHFR. I noticed it skipped right over that. I have heard from her pediatrician that's not something that's typically tested for. And I was wondering, since now we're hearing that up to 75% of the kids that are diagnosed with autism could potentially have this mutation, I was wondering if it would be relevant to test for it, because now I know that one of the copies runs in my family. We started Ella on leucovorin and NAC, and she's starting to talk now. I gave them the whole backstory. And she said the next step would be to have a telehealth meeting so we could talk this out. And I said, okay, wait a minute. What's the likelihood that you guys are actually going to test for this? Because I have heard there's apprehension there. She said, I'm going to be honest with you. The chances are low. It's just not something in our realm of things we usually test for. That doesn't make any sense. But I said, okay, well, what if her pediatrician decides to gather information about the folate deficiency. There's other things we can test for, like doing the FRAT test or testing for her folate levels, etc., so we can find out how low things are. If she sends in an order to you, is there a way that we can work with the specialists at the hospital and we can potentially get this blood work done with my wiggle worm daughter who has a hard time with sitting still? He said, of course, all things were possible and worth a conversation. I really don't expect this to go anywhere, but I'm going to say we've already hit our out-of-pocket max for the year, and if I can get them to pay for this, then I want to get them to pay for it, because it can be between $300 or $400 just to test for the mutation. And she did say if there was justification behind it, there is a chance that if it can affect her life, that we could test for it. So it's not a no, but it's a very low chance of getting them to do this. I wanted to check on this route before I did it privately. We went to another prestigious children's hospital this year, and I also reached out to their genetics team to see what their answer would be. Now, best case scenario, they decide that the justification is there between their data and my data, and they decide to send saliva kits to me, my husband, Ella, and her sister. When we've gotten genetic testing in the past, they tested us all. This is just getting really weird really quickly. The fact that the MTHFR mutation causes so much disturbance to the body with low glutathione, inflammation, toxicity building up. This is just like a bomb waiting to explode in the body in a lot of cases, and they're not testing for that. This could definitely affect the quality of someone's life. So I don't understand. It doesn't make sense. Obviously, if I hit roadblocks here, I will be doing private testing so I can find out the exact copies that Ella carries and I carry. I could have a copy from my dad and my mom, who knows? And Ella could have a copy from her father and me as well. This is just crazy.